Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. Got a good one for you for a Friday. Second hour, Jimmy will be here, Jimmy Aiken, and we will do Ask Me Anything with Jimmy. And you know what you can do? Ask him anything. That's how that works. This hour, our good friend Rose Sweet has made it into the studio. It's nice to have you back in the studio with us, Rose.
I love the pretty drive here to San Diego, and I love seeing everybody in person. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and you come through the mountains to come see us? Is
I
that right?
do. I come through the mountains, and then I go home through Julian because of the traffic.
Do you get pie there? I don't know if people know this, but
Yeah.
there's a little town here famous for its apple pie.
Oh, it's really good apple pie with vanilla ice cream on top.
So now I know why you come. I used to think it was because we had a Nordstrom over here, but
Well, that's on the way in,
Oh.
but on the way home, it's the pie.
Rose Sweet is here to talk about you know what, we're going to talk about divorce, but discerning divorce. And one of the things about these shows, Rose, is they're very much needed, and that's why we keep asking you to do them. I know you do other topics with us, but so many people call with questions when we talk about annulment or divorce. And this, I think, at least in my experience, this is the most common obstacle people have to the full engagement with the faith. They think that they are not welcome, or they're not sure what their situation is. And so this one turns out to be quite a service to people.
Well, that's good. It's a difficult topic. Should I stay or should I go?
You sound like the Clash.
What
If
do you
you
mean?
stay, there will be trouble. But
And
if you go, it will be double.
And you know
So-
what? I love that because that's the truth. If you're in a difficult marital situation, there is trouble.
Yeah.
But it's not free and easy and wonderful on the other side of the fence. If you go there, it's
Right.
also very painful and
Right.
and maybe even sinful.
Right. Yeah. There's there's. I think we don't talk about that enough, actually, Rose. There's the abandonment aspect of divorce.
Right.
That, like, one of the things you have to consider is not, is this best for me, but
Right.
am I abandoning someone to whom I made promises?
Right, right. And what is the effect on my spouse and my children and the rest of my family,
Yeah.
the extended family?
So that's what we'll talk about this hour, discerning divorce. If you are, if this is a question maybe you already answered, but you're not sure if you came to the right answer, or you would like some help working through this, or if it's a situation where you just need some help as far as a difficult marital situation, you're welcome to call 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. So do people have to stay in a bad marriage? Is that what the church teaches, Rose?
Well, now you're asking for a simple one-size-fits-all
That's
answer.
the best kind of answer for me.
And
I like those the
I
best.
can't give you that. It depends on the people and the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, then, that requires you to stop and think and be discerning and take a risk. People just want the quick answer. Oh, Rose Sweet on Catholic Answer said I could get a divorce. Bye, honey. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, no.
So what are the things that are, like, if there must be, I mean, I guess one thing I have learned from you over the years is with annulments, with all kinds, there's not an easy,
Right.
simple answer. That there's always discernment that's required. But what are the kind of things that I need to discern then?
Well,
I thought you would come ready with some answers. You
I-
came
I-
all the way over from the desert. I figured that you.
I got
that was an
plenty-
awful deep breath.
I got plenty of answers, but like, where do I begin?
Okay.
Some of the questions are: do I have to stay in a bad marriage? And if I do, how much do I tolerate? And is it abuse or not abuse? And can I get my spouse to change? What if I can't? Do I have to change? And what if I'm just bored? And I know God has more for me out there.
Oh, yeah.
I just hear all these questions, and they all deserve an answer. So I did come prepared with 6 little points today that we could throw out.
Well, what do you know? Rose Sweet came prepared.
Okay.
888-318-7884 if you want to get in on the conversation about discerning divorce. That's what Rose, that's one of the things that Rose does. Rose is a life coach and an author, and helps people with difficult marriage situations. Sometimes after and sometimes during. And you're welcome to call with your questions, 888-318-7884. All right, let us hear the 6 points you came prepared with, Rose.
Okay, number one, the very first thing, get professional counseling from a trusted Catholic agent. And when I say agent, I realize now it's not just a priest, but it can be a good Catholic therapist or a good spiritual director or all three of the above. But you're not qualified. You're not, I'm not. The average person isn't qualified to discern their marriage, where should I stay or go, by themselves. You're too close to it.
Yeah,
And
right.
you can't
right.
see. So humble yourself and get professional counseling. And don't talk to your sister and your brother or your friend, and don't get their input. I mean, a lot of times that is very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get a lot of different answers. Like, maybe your sister hates your husband and she goes, yeah, get a divorce. Well, no, don't listen to her.
No.
Go listen to
Hater.
Exactly. No, seriously.
Hater's going to hate.
Go to a detached, professional, experienced person who comes from a Catholic worldview and who wants the best for you and your whole family.
All right, what else?
Number 2. Okay, so now you're getting therapy, right? You're getting counsel. Do your own interior work. That means, what is wrong with me? What do I need to look at? What are my attitudes that are sinful and selfish? Where do I have to change to make this decision or to make this work, or if I have to leave? It's most people go to counseling. Okay, I'll go to counseling with you. They hear the counselor and they go, well, yeah, they said that you're supposed to use more I statements with me. And they're focusing again in marriage counseling a lot on the other person and getting them to change. Nobody wants to do their own interior work. It's against nature. So please, again, ask for humility, do your own work. Number 3, set and enforce healthy boundaries. Let's say I have a verbally abusive husband. He learned a long time ago that he can control with his words, and he gets to my soft spot. Is that grounds for divorce? No. Is it grounds for getting down and getting help? Yes. So I may have to say, I'm not leaving. There's no divorce, but you have to change the way you talk to me. Otherwise, I'm leaving the room. I'm going away for the weekend. Whatever those healthy boundaries are, you don't have to tolerate that kind of treatment in any relationship. But it doesn't mean it's grounds for abandoning the relationship.
I like this one, Rose, because I do think a lot of times when people talk about Catholics, they don't have divorce, that you just got to put up with whatever is going on. There's not that recognition. Some Catholics probably believe that as well, that Jesus calls us to put up with abuse, and he certainly calls us to take up our cross and carry our cross, but that doesn't mean, it's not the same thing as being a doormat, I suppose would be one way to say it.
Being Catholic, we always look to Jesus Christ for the answers, right? And if you go to Scripture, you will see that Jesus did not tolerate when people wanted to throw stones at him. He ran away.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just go, okay, I'm the Son of God, go ahead and kill me now? No, because it wasn't the proper time and place and reason.
Right.
Another time they were going to throw him off a cliff. Again, he slipped away.
Yeah.
So he didn't subject himself to every kind of abuse. And it's like, what? Jesus didn't, no. He was discerning.
Right.
He was discerning. And when the time was right, for the right reason and the right purpose, and to fulfill the prophecy and everything else, of course he took up his cross and he was crucified.
Right.
But Jesus himself didn't tolerate all manner of attack against him.
No, that's right. And even that's funny, because when you're saying that, I was thinking about, I think it's in John's Gospel when he's on the Temple Mount and they're like, just tell us, are you the Messiah or not? And he says, you already know. Like,
right.
I've already, you've seen the signs, you already know. But he's not going to be manipulated into saying the words, because he knows that'll start a fight.
Right, and this is what I help people do in relationships. I need to divorce my husband. I go, whoa, hang on, what's going on? And then I say, no, let me give you some skills that when he says that, you can go, I already told you.
Yeah.
You can be like Jesus.
Yeah. All right. So get professional help, work on your own interior stuff, set healthy boundaries. What else you got?
I like to throw this in, study grounds for annulment. The Catholic Church, you can get it online anywhere almost, has a list of what really is a major impediment in a relationship, so that from the very beginning, when the two people said I do, there was something so damaged in the way that a valid marriage bond didn't come into being. You may be in that situation. You may not. But by looking at it, you get an insight into what the church says about marriage.
Oh, yeah, right.
And you can then, so you understand what the church says, you can follow what the church says, and if you say, wow, I do have two of these very clearly, then, go get help or dig further. But the grounds for annulment is really a good place to start and say, should I stay or should I go?
I'm going to sing The Clash if you keep that up.
I know.
All right,
I want to hear you sing.
I know you do not want to hear me sing. You think you do, but you don't. I got to set some healthy boundaries here. You definitely don't want that. All right, number 5 out of your 6 things. If the marriage feels so troubled that you're considering divorce, the 5th of 6 things you should undertake.
Number 5 is don't rush and give it time. Don't rush. Don't react on your emotions. I love the rule. Saint Ignatius of Loyola, his rules of discernment is when you're in a time of desolation and you're not feeling close to God and the world's coming down and you're miserable, don't make a big decision at that time. Don't make a big decision.
Mm-hmm.
Draw closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
Just draw closer to God. Give it time. Slow down. Do it the right way. You won't regret it.
And number 6.
Number 6, put this whole issue in its proper order. In the big scheme of eternity, this is a question for you, are any of us entitled to a happy marriage?
No.
What?
No. I don't
wait
think...
a minute. What's the purpose of marriage then?
Well, I mean, look, there's people that get married, and at the night of the wedding, one of them, gets in a car accident, and this is not a happy marriage.
Right.
Somebody's taking care of somebody
Right.
now. Nobody's. I believe this also is a song, but I don't think anybody promised you a bed of roses. Is that a song?
A rose garden.
Yeah, nobody promised you a rose garden.
That's a country western song. Okay.
All right, yeah, well, I'm not going to sing that either.
Okay, good.
But yes, that's right. That is important. I think sometimes we're so spoiled, and I'm not just talking about marriage.
Right. Yes.
We think God promised us all these things that He never promised us. He never promised, that you were going to think your pastor is the greatest homilist in the world. He never promised you your spouse was always going to be the coolest cat.
Right. And you may have some really legitimate causes for anger or hurt, but process it and move on and have the bigger picture. Put it in its proper order. A happy marriage and happy times in marriage are a wonderful blessing, but you're going to get unhappy times. And anything, that's life. That's another song. Oh my gosh,
that's what people say. If you want to talk about divorce from a Catholic perspective, from discerning what to do in a difficult marriage, 888-318-7884. Do you want to tell that story from Transylvania, or
yes,
do you want to wait
yes.
till after the break?
Let's do it right now.
Okay.
In Birtan, a little village in Transylvania, Romania, the church had a reconciliation room. And anytime two people came and said, Father, we want to get a divorce, they had to go live in this room by themselves for 2 weeks, and it had one bed, one plate, one spoon, one chair. And in 300 years in this village, they only had one divorce.
Oh.
Because people worked it out.
Yeah.
But I did see a funny line on the internet that says, and they also had 10 million unsolved murders. Right, exactly.
I don't know what happened, Father.
I know. My spouse is
She
gone.
slipped.
Yeah, she slipped.
All right, we'll be right back with more conversation about divorce with Rose Sweet on Catholic Answers Live.
Catch Catholic Answers Live anytime at Catholic.com.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects home buyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
EWTN, teaching the truth.
Thank you so much for all that you do. And your Mother Angelica and her words, I'll never forget the first shows on television when I found her, and that led me to the radio station.
I'm an 8-year homeschooling mom. I'm a veteran of doing this for a long time. What encouraged me was this beautiful nun named Mother Angelica, and one day she said, well, if you don't like the school, why don't you just pull them out and homeschool them?
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Rose Sweet is our guest. You can find her at rosesweet.com. She's done all kinds of work for EWTN and a very, very good speaker. And I always like to say that because I forget that you're out there on the road speaking. And the first time I met you was you gave a talk that I just blew me away to a women's group. And I don't want to explain why I was at a talk with a women's group, but
Yeah, let's move right along,
yeah.
shall we?
I mean, but I was wearing men's clothes, but anyway, back to the phones we go, if that's all right. You ready to take some
let's
calls?
go. Let's
all right,
go.
let's go to Joseph right here in California. Hello, Joseph. You got a question for Rose Sweet?
Hello. Hi. Yes, my name. My question is about a friend. I'm personally not calling in regards to something I'm going through, but this friend recently told me about a situation they've been in for the past few years, and they're not actually married to the person, but they've been living. Well, they had a child together. The child's about 14 now. They don't know. She's converted since and doesn't really want to live that lifestyle anymore. But the type of person she is in a relationship with, or used to be in a relationship with, rather, seems like the person that would make her life very difficult after the fact. The reason I'm calling is to know or to better understand what I can do as a friend for her in her situation to help her get out of the situation, or if I should just stay hands off.
Wow, that's a sticky one. So again, Joseph, I'm going to stick to generalities here. First of all, to be a good friend to anybody is just to be present to them and to listen to them without judgment and without your own bias. Except if you hear them, say they're going to commit some horrible sin, then of course you speak up and say, don't do that. It's hard. I would never tell people to leave. I would just ask questions. That's what I found is really helpful. If you were to stay with, let's say his name is Jim. If you were to stay with Jim, what would that look like, and how would you feel, and how would it affect your child, and what do you think God would think about that? And just explore that. Asking her questions. If you did stay or if you did go, what would you be afraid of? What would be good about that? In other words, to help the person use their brain and their intellect, not just their emotions, to begin to process it. And if she seems stuck, Joseph, I would encourage her to go get some therapy or some counseling from a professional. With a good Catholic professional, it shouldn't take a long, long time to really work through something like this. But just be with her, listen to her, and ask her what she's afraid of and what she thinks God would say.
Okay, Joseph?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the call. There's 2 lines open if you'd like to talk with Rose Sweet. We're talking about discerning divorce, 888-318-7884. Going to Nebraska now. Teresa, listening to EWTN on Channel 130, Sirius XM Satellite Radio. Teresa, welcome. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
Well, I have been married to my high school sweetheart, and we've been married a very long time. And he recently told me that he was never going to have my back. And thinking back, he's never had my back. And I come from not a very good family background, and I was so in love with him when I married him that I just figured it was me, because there's always been me. So it's my fault. And I'm really, really praying. I go to church every day to pray about whether I should divorce him, because I feel so hurt and betrayed. And I don't know what to do.
Teresa, have you ever been to any kind of counseling about this?
We just started counseling. Like, we had our first session.
Okay, good. Let me throw this out. This is my opinion, that there really is, in a certain sense, there's really no such thing as marriage counseling. It really is finding what the 2 people are bringing to the marriage and uncovering that, and then helping the 2 individuals heal their own mess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So hopefully when you go to this therapist that it doesn't become, well, he said, she said, and looking at the other one and saying what they're doing wrong, but ask the therapist to help you. Where do I need to see this in a different way? That would be very, very good for you. The other thing is, Teresa, look for ways that you can live with him in peace. Scripture says, if at all possible, St. Paul said this, if at all possible, now that's the key, live with each other in peace. It doesn't say harmony, joy, love, and happiness forever. It says live with each other in peace, especially at your age and how long you've been together. Can you find a way to be in the same house and to be married that you can process your hurt, come to a place of forgiveness, maybe adjust how you are in the relationship, and come to a place where you can live with him in peace? I love to help people explore that in my coaching. So that's what I advise you. Go continue with your therapy. Ask the therapist to help you look at your own stuff, not just his, and then also look for a way to get over the hurt, come to forgiveness, be thankful for what you do have, and live in peace, even though it's not perfect.
Okay.
Okay? And I'm going to be praying for you starting right now.
Thank you so much. I just feel so alone because I don't have anybody to talk to. So thank you so much for the prayers.
You know what? You're not alone. You reach out. Go to my website and reach out to me anytime, Teresa. I'll be here for you.
What's
Teresa.
your last name so I can find you?
Sweet.
Like sugar.
Okay. I will do that. Thank you.
That's what we call a misnomer. Teresa, no, sorry, Rose. Teresa, thank you.
Is there a priest here? Because he should hear your confession right now.
But that just came out. I don't know. Sometimes they just come out. I don't know where they come from. God bless you, Teresa. Thank you for that call. I hope you will reach out to Rose Sweet at rosesweet.com. The number here is 888-318-7884. Going down to Texas now. Bob in Texas. Thanks for waiting, Bob. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Not that well. I mean, Rose says yes, but I feel
don't
like you're on
listen to him.
speakerphone.
Bob, listen to me.
Yes, ma'am. What I'm concerned about is I'm a little bit up in age, and I really never knew what narcissistic personality disorder was. And as an empath, it seems like I attract those type of people. And I guess my question is, when you get with that type of person, because I'm going to a Catholic counselor right now, and everything I understand is those people don't heal. I mean, they say that, only 6% of those people will actually ever realize that they have this disorder. Now that 6%, only about 10 or 15% get help and can actually deal with it. When you get into a marriage and you go through the love bombing, the breadcrumbing,
right,
and then the gaslighting discard phase, how does the Catholic Church deal with that, especially when it comes to annulments and looking at that portion of that relationship that is not going to work for most people?
Bob, that's a legitimate complaint. I hear you loud and clear. I've been through that myself many times. And let me make a distinction, please, between the Catholic Church and Catholic therapists or coaches and those people. Not everybody has a good, solid grasp on the human person and these kinds of complex issues. So just like you have to sometimes find a good spiritual director, I went through 3 before I found the one I've been with for almost 30 years now. You might have to do the same with a Catholic therapist or anybody who's giving you solid advice. The church does not require you to tolerate that behavior, but the church knows that there are ways for you to learn to live with that in peace somehow. If you might be able to, you might not. That you don't necessarily have to divorce, and the focus should not be on changing them. The focus should first be on, and I had to go through this myself, how can I deal with this narcissistic person or whatever label you want to put on them? How can I deal with them to minimize the pain and hurt? How can I properly detach and still love them? How can I learn to live in some kind of peace with them? You must do this as phase 1. You can't just say, well, they don't heal and I'm out of here. because then you'll always have the regret that you didn't do everything possible on your side to find some kind of way to live with them. Now, again, I'm sure a lot of people say, well, what about abuse? I don't know. A lot of abuse is different. Horrible abuse, the church never says you must stay.
Bob, you can hear the music. We have to take a break. We're talking about divorce with Rose Sweet, of course, from a Catholic perspective. If you have questions about discerning divorce, about difficult situations, about how the church and other things might be helpful to you, you're welcome to call 888-31-TRUTH. We hope that one of the things that we communicate here at Catholic Answers Live is that our Catholic faith allows us to be fully serious about all the problems we encounter in the church and in the world, but it also lets us have light hearts and maybe even mix in a bit of fun, and that is exactly what our good friend Joe Heschmeyer does in his popular podcast, Shameless Popery. You should check it out at shamelessjoe.com. Joe's got a deep grasp of the faith, morals, the teachings of the church, all that, but he's also got a witty conversational style. He entertains and he informs, but you will leave equipped to better answer the most common challenges, misconceptions, and questions about the Catholic faith. He's got insightful guests, he does on-air debates, and he takes a close look into all the things that you want to know about as a Catholic living today. You'll walk away knowledgeable and filled with joy. Look for Joe on his YouTube channel. Check him out at shamelessjoe.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, become a patron.
Deepen your connection to the Church's holy days and seasons while you draw on the wisdom of the Church Fathers. Feasts of Our Fathers, the new book from Mike Aquilina and Adam Lucas, is a treasury of history, prayers, insights, and lessons that will bring you closer to the earliest of Catholic traditions. Take your prayer life and your solidarity with the Church, past and present, to a new level. Order your copy of Feasts of Our Fathers today at shop.catholic.com.
When the resurrected Jesus appeared to disciples on the road to Emmaus, they didn't recognize him until the breaking of the bread. The same is true today. In the Holy Eucharist, we really meet Jesus. In The Eucharist is Really Jesus, author Joe Heschmeyer explains how knowing Jesus in the Eucharist is the key to understanding all of Christian faith. Order your copy of The Eucharist is Really Jesus today at shop.catholic.com or get it at a good Catholic bookstore. Welcome back. Catholic Answers Live. Rose Sweet is here. You can find out what Rose does and what she's up to at rosesweet.com. She's got a bunch of wonderful books, and she has a very full speaking schedule, but she could probably squeeze you in. And she's a life coach, and you also made a lot of media. I remember you made
some video series
on divorce.
Yeah.
Didn't those air on EWTN?
They sold in their bookstore.
I see.
No, but they're meant to be not on. They're meant to be only within the confines of a group with a facilitator. To help people from killing each other.
We don't want like that Romanian church situation. If you've got questions about divorce, remarriage, annulments, Rose is an awful good person to talk to. You are welcome to call here, 888-318-7884. We go now to Hayden, Idaho, where our good friend Emma lives. She's watching on YouTube. Hi, Emma.
Hi, Cy. Thank you for taking my call. Hi, Rose. I don't have a question. I'm hoping that the listeners will pray for my son. His wife has decided that she's bisexual. She wanted an open marriage, and he said absolutely not. She wanted to have an emotional affair, and of course he said absolutely not. And, you hear about people, coming out of the closet and declaring who they are, but nobody talks about the devastation that's left behind. And I absolutely adore this young woman, and I'm looking, it doesn't look good. I think they're headed for divorce. What does Christmas look like? And
right.
Oh, yeah.
All I can do is pray, and I know that there's major power in that, but it's hard. It's really hard.
It is hard. And Emma, thank you for bringing this up. You're right that nobody talks about so in our culture today, we're so focused on the person who's coming out or making this decision. Isn't she brave? Isn't this wonderful? And you're right. Nobody's thinking about all the kids, the spouse, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, all the friends. And here's the other thing, and you know this, Emma. Now, because we all still love her, we have to change the way we treat this, and we have to change our conversations, and we have to accommodate this. I mean, it's a ripple effect of this particular. And you know what? It is a sin. And here's the thing. It could be she wanted an affair with a guy or an affair with a girl, or she just wanted to leave. Regardless, it's a sinful choice, and she's confused, and she's obviously closed right now at this point. But keep praying, and I would just say be honest about everything. Just love her, talk to her. Like I said to the other callers, ask her questions. Why are you doing this, honey? What's not good enough about the marriage, or what do you see in this woman that's not in my son? Or those are good questions. Just get her to talk about it. I think that's another thing we don't do. They go, this is what I am, and everybody goes, okay, and nobody challenges it or questions it in a compassionate but direct way. So that's what I would say. Emma, do that. Would you be okay to that?
Absolutely. There's one more element. She says she's not a Christian anymore. That was all a feeling.
Oh, and that's okay. I'm not.
That's a lie.
Okay.
That's a lie.
Oh, but hang on. There's a part of her that can't embrace the Christian part, because if she does, she won't be able to pursue this other thing. So she's temporarily throwing it out the window. Don't worry. God is with you in this. Just go talk to her. Go take her out for a nice lunch or dinner long, and just say, I love you. Let's talk. And just listen. Don't bring Jesus into it every sentence. Okay? Just listen to her and let her know, like our Lord would if he was sitting there. I see you. I hear you. Talk to me. Talk to me.
You're right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Emma. We're praying for you.
God bless you, Emma. Thank you,
Thank you.
For calling. It's always nice when you call here. Thanks very much. 888-318-7884 is our number. One of the things, that situation that Emma just brought up brings to mind is when you're having trouble in your marriage, often it's you've never been through this before, and so you don't see hope from, and I'm speaking from experience now.
Right.
And I think one of the things we have to communicate to, especially people who are in those, tough years in the 30s and 40s where things can get, actually, as weird as it's gotten, whatever people have done, whatever people have said, it's all redeemable. It can, if there's, the will on the part of both people. Now, that's presuming a lot. Miracles happen.
Right. If there's will, and some of the 6 things I said, guidance, professional guidance, give it a time, going deep,
Yeah.
Those are steps that can help you get to the other end.
Emma, thank you again. Let's go to Portland, Oregon. William is in Portland. William, thank you for waiting. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking my call. So I've been married for 30 years, and recently my wife, let's just back up. About a year and a half ago, she's just started spending a lot of time alone in her office doing all this work and stuff. And we just started separating, and I didn't realize that there was a major problem until about maybe March when, I tried to approach her for some intimacy, and she just said, just stop it, just go away. And I didn't understand that. I asked her what was going on, and she just says, I just don't want to be close to you anymore. I don't want to be around you anymore. And I don't know. I kind of brought up to her all these reasons why we should stay together, how it was against our Catholic faith, how we were in a vocation, and how it doesn't make sense that we would just throw away 30 years. And she refuses to go to a marriage counseling. She says, I don't have to work on this marriage. I don't have to do that. And so I am just struggling trying to deal with the pain and the rejection and the anger. I mean, it feels like I'm going through these, all the stages of grief, like constantly over and over again, where I'm angry, but then I'm sad, and then I'm rejected, and I'm depressed. And I don't want it to end in a divorce.
William?
And I don't want it to end in separation, but she's looking into maybe getting another apartment someplace part-time. And I just wondered if you had any advice for me.
Well, do you love her?
Absolutely. She's my life.
What do you love about her? Okay, no, we don't have time to get into a long thing, so I want you to hold that thought. This is a time for you to get out of your swirling emotions of feeling rejected and hurt and angry. Those are all normal, but you want to go get some help for yourself. You go get counseling to work through your emotions, to come to a place of forgiveness, and then roll up your sleeves and you go fight for your wife. Go fight for her. And what it's going to look like is soft and gentle, because she doesn't trust you. She doesn't think counseling would even be worth anything, because she probably thinks that you won't get it anyway. You didn't get it till last March after all these years. That's, I'm guessing. But go work on yourself, and so that you can go to her and say, if I were to do things differently, what would you like from me? What is it what you want? Just be curious. Ask her questions. Open up her heart. And not with reasons like, don't say you can't leave me, you can't leave me, because then you look all needy and pathetic, and nobody likes that. So get yourself strong and centered in Christ, and clear in your mind, and get some professional help, and then get a plan to go woo her back. You might not be able to, but at least you will be able to love her in that way and honor your marriage vows in that way. I know it's a lot.
I did start last week at counseling, but it's not through Catholic counseling, and I don't know if she understands where I'm coming from half the time, but I am trying to work through the emotions and stuff.
Okay, then if she doesn't understand you half the time, just get out, get a new one, start over. Don't rush this or take the easy way. And reach out again to me through my website, and I will give you some guidance if I can in that area.
What's Greg Popchek's thing? Catholic Counselors?
Catholic Counselors, .com, and then there's Catholic Psych. I always like them too. Dr. Greg Bottaro.
Oh yeah, right,
yeah.
Right. So there's that as well. William, thank you for the call. You have brought us to the break, so I'm going to take the break. We're talking about divorce, annulment, remarriage, whatever the issue might be. You're welcome to talk with our good friend Rose Sweet. 888-318-7884.
This is Archbishop Paul Coakley, the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, and you're listening to Catholic Answers Live.
Who was the first Catholic in your family? Were they evangelized by a friend, a coworker, a stranger? Did you ever think that you could be that person that God uses to save a soul? And that soul could save their family, their grandchildren, and generations to come. At St. Paul Street Evangelization, a Catholic nonprofit, we train, equip, and mobilize Catholic disciples to do the urgent work of evangelization. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization, streetevangelization.com.
Prayer has been so powerful in my communication with God, understanding the church better, most importantly, understanding the Lord better, and myself better. I heard it said once that God answers Knee-mail, as in Knee. Prayer is powerful. One of the favorite things I love to do when it comes to prayer is to ask for the intercession of the great saints. Try it sometime. You'll be very, very impressed and surprised by the amazing power of prayer.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Our guest is Rose Sweet. You can find out what she does over at rosesweet.com. we almost always end up asking Rose to talk about has something to do with difficulties in marriage. Not always, but very often, because it actually turns out that one of the things that, when you get down to brass tacks with people, that is most obstructing people from the full practice of the faith or coming into the Catholic Church or feeling welcome or persevering in the Catholic faith are marriage issues. Marriage issues are a common theme through all of it. So it is important that we take time to do this. If those are issues that you would like to discuss with Rose, you're welcome to call 888-318-7884. You look like you want to say something before I went.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah.
Oh, that you reminded me that the Diocese of Boston years ago put in like I heard this, $1 million in a campaign for Catholics Come Home. Remember those beautiful ads?
Yeah.
And tons of people came back to the church, and a year later they were gone again. And I found out the reason was they didn't have programs in place to help them deal with their marriage issues.
Oh, isn't that something?
Because
yeah, I'm not surprised.
Right.
I mean, having done this for a while, it's just...
So all you listeners out there, go to your parish priest and say, Father, what do we have or what can we get to help people in our parish in this situation?
Right. Even just to get their questions answered. Like, am I allowed to come to
Right.
Mass? Like, a lot of people don't even know if they're allowed to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Joni in Omaha, Nebraska, listening on Spirit Catholic Radio, KVSS. Glad you're here, Joni. Go ahead with your question for Rose.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about staying in a marriage that was very difficult, because I have heard that staying in a marriage is much better for your children than separating. But it seems like, and maybe it's because there's other issues, that it's caused a lot of problems with my children.
Mm-hmm.
It was very difficult, very impossible, kind of controlling, manipulation type, and I don't think the person or my spouse understood. We had issues about him being hurt, but it just in the beginning I just dealt with it, or just was quiet. I didn't deal with it, or I didn't talk back or argue, or just was hurt. And then later when I tried to stand up for myself, it didn't work out very well either.
Right. Well, Joni, I know your situation is painful. I can hear it in your voice, and this is a complex issue. Just in general, yes, it is better to stay in a marriage for the children, or sometimes even not for the children, to stay in a marriage than to divorce. But that has to be qualified by each unique situation. Because if the marriage is really horrible and dysfunctional and painful and abusive, it does nobody good to stay there. And that doesn't necessarily mean divorce. It could mean the wife and her children move out for a year, and you go to intense counseling or rehab or whatever, and there's chance for reconciliation and healing. Maybe not. But so the church doesn't demand that you stay in a and this is the word that's in the catechism, an unbearable situation. It's unbearable, not just difficult, because we all have difficult marriages. We have difficult times in marriages. So again, I don't want to diminish your pain, but this is where I would highly encourage you to go talk to a wise and holy Catholic counselor, priest, spiritual director, who understands these kind of things. And then they don't all do. And again, if you can, reach out here to Catholic Answers, or contact me on my website, I'll help guide you to some people who can help you. But don't stay silent. I know it's scary. It's scary both ways, because when you speak up, you get put down too. But ask the Lord for courage and clarity, and go slow. take a deep breath, and know that God has your whole family in his hands. So don't give up hope.
Okay, well, my kids are all grown, and it's just still not a good situation, and I don't really know what to do. So
you have options.
I can contact.
Yeah. You know what? Just reach out to me through my website, and I'll just you have options, and I will quote you from the Catechism and canon law what your legitimate options are.
Okay, Joni?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks very much for the call. 888-318-7884 is the number. Yvonne in Michigan, listening on Holy Family Radio. You are next. Go ahead, Yvonne, with your question.
Hi. Actually, mine's more of an answer to the gentleman caller that his wife, because I was the wife in that situation. I was in a really depressive state. I don't even know what was driving it, but I would cry when I had to come home from work, and I just didn't want to fight anymore. I mean, my husband had been an alcoholic for years. He had gotten sober by this point, but it was just that I had lost my father. There's a lot of grief. It kind of all bubbled up at once. And I just looked at him and I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm the Catholic. He's not. He's not Catholic. And my husband sat there and he listened to me, and because he wanted to know, because he knew I was so sad. I would come home and I'd go right to bed, and I wouldn't talk with him or the kids, and I just was shutting myself off. And he said to me when I told him that I didn't want to do it anymore. I think I wanted a divorce, and I didn't have it in me to fight anymore. And he sat there and he listened to me, and he said, I love you. I don't want to lose you. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll move upstairs. I'll give you your space. I'll give you your time, whatever you need me to do. You just have to tell me what you need me to do. Those three things he gave me helped mend that. And I mean, we still had a lot to work through, but he gave me hope.
That's
awesome. Where I so broken.
That's beautiful. I love your husband. You know, those are the words that every woman wants to hear when you're having a difficult time. I love you. I'm here for you. I'll move upstairs. I'll do whatever you want. You just tell me. I love that. God bless him.
Yeah. We've been married 35 years now. So that my daughter could function as a mom for her other 3 children and get her life back together. And he's working 2 jobs so that I could stay home to care for this child. So that tells you, speaks to the heart of this man.
Yes, it does.
He may not be Catholic, but I'm still praying for that.
Good.
But just that you know, there are olive branches out there. There are ways to help to start mending that soul and that heart with just those 3 statements. I love you. I don't want to lose you. And you tell me what you need me to do, and I will do it.
Wow.
And you know, I love, and let me add the 4th, and you said this several times. He listened to you. He listened to you. He listened to you. Yes. Yes.
He did.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think you've given a lot of people direction, Yvonne. Thank you for helping with that. That's because I don't know. Sometimes we men, we need a little help with how do I deal with this?
Yes.
You're giving me the look, Rose. I'm going to the next call.
I'm not giving
yes,
you the
you are.
look.
Sherry in Farmington, Missouri. You are next, Sherry. Thank you for the call. Go ahead with your question.
Hi. So this is my first time ever even listening to this station as of today.
Yay.
I'm brand new to this. I'm just starting the OCIA classes on this Sunday.
Oh, beautiful, Sherry.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Just completely brand new all the way around. But the question I had while I was listening to this is previously, in my life, I have gone through 3 failed marriages, so I've been divorced 3 times. And I wonder if that's going to preclude me from being able to get married again.
Well,
once I'm, Catholic, and I don't know how quite that works.
Rose does.
I know exactly. What's going to happen is that very first marriage is going to be considered by the church as the one that's valid, and the marriage bond is still there. And the other 2 subsequently are by default not valid because the first one was still there. You didn't get an annulment for that first one, right? So it's a matter of focusing on getting an annulment for the first one, and the second 2 will be taken care of by a process called legamen, or there are other situations that could fall into, but it is not going to keep you from becoming Catholic or from possibly attempting marriage again. But with me, with multiple marriage in my background, I would caution you to slow down. Whatever your age, it doesn't matter, to get into the Catholic Church, take a breath, draw close to our Lord, work on your own interior stuff, and don't worry about marriage again, because you want to make sure that you don't bring any of the unhealed stuff from the past into the future. And the Catholic Church is the perfect place to, hopefully, your parish to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Part of the reason I asked is this just happened to come up while I was listening. I didn't know what the topic was or anything was going to be, but it just made me think of that. I have something of a boyfriend who's long distance at the moment, who wants to marry me, so that's why I had that question.
Okay, here's what Aunt Rosie is going to tell you right now. Tell the boyfriend you're in no position to marry anybody, but that you love him if you do, and you're going to ask him to wait for you. And if he loves you, he will wait for you, like the previous caller. He'll do anything. And you drop that relationship for now, and you focus on clearing up your past and allowing God to bring really deep healing into you, so that you will then be able to not just get married, but to love a man the way you're supposed to. Does that make sense? I know this is painful, but I've been in this situation. Just tell him you're not ready for marriage, and to give you some time and meet you on top of the Empire State Building in a year. You remember that movie?
I do remember that movie.
See, an affair to remember.
An affair to remember. That's what it was.
So they loved each other, but they had business to take care of in the meantime, and they didn't contact each other. They went and took care of their business, and then they met again. Well, they didn't meet, but
Darren and I both thought it was Sleepless in Seattle. We both were going down that road. So sorry, we didn't know. Sherry, if you'd like, as you're making your way into full communion with the Catholic Church, there's 2 books I love to give people who are in the beginning of that process. One of them is called Why We're Catholic. That's by our colleague Trent Horn. And the other one is called The Words of Eternal Life, True Happiness and Where to Find It. That one's by Jimmy Akin. If you'd like those, all you got to do is hang on the line, and we'll send those off to you in Missouri. And maybe we'll get to talk again as you continue on the journey.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad you called, Sherry.
I was a little nervous, but I talk on the phone for a living, so I figured I could probably do it.
Oh, good girl.
I do too. Sherry, you also made a great advertisement for Catholic radio stations. God bless the people running Catholic radio in Missouri, in Farmington, Missouri. First day that Sherry ever listened, and the topic just happened to be, no, I don't believe there's such a thing as just happened to be.
I don't either.
But God bless you, Sherry. God bless everyone who called. The next hour, Jimmy Akin will be here, and we'll do Ask Me Anything. If you've got questions about, what's the topic? Anything. 888-318-7884. If you've been listening and you'd like to know more about Rose Sweet, go to rosesweet.com. and check out all the work she does there. Rose, thank you for coming over the mountains.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll do it again.
And now what do you get? Ice cream on the way back? What are you going to get?
Apple pie.
Oh, apple pie with ice cream. Okay. You might not get the ice cream. All right.
But I'll see you at the conference in a few weeks.
We'll see you there. CatholicAnswersConference.com. Right back with Jimmy Akin on Catholic Answers Live. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host, and this is the Folgers Coffee Hour. Good to the last drop. See? Right up to the last hour. We got good stuff this week. Jimmy Akin is here with us this hour, and it's Ask Me Anything. I'll give out the phone number, but the lines are already full, and they stay full, so you might have to dial a few times to get in. Jimmy will talk to you about anything, however, when you call, and anyone is welcome to call. 888-318-7884. Jimmy is senior apologist here at Catholic Answers, the author of A Daily Defense, 365 Days Plus One to Becoming a Better Apologist, and The Bible is a Catholic Book, and many other things. And, of course, the proprietor of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. Hello, Jimmy Akin.
Very hello, Cyril Kellett.
Very hello. I am a little worried about this show because I think I'm going to make reference to things we have discussed this week that will not air until weeks from now.
Later.
Yeah.
It's possible.
I do.
So this is the seventh hour of radio that you and I have done together this week, counting a couple of pre-records we did.
Right. And so then I start to think, oh, we just talked about that on the air. I can bring it up again. And then I'll realize, oh, no, it's not airing till October. So I am unstuck in time, as like a Billy Pilgrim. I've got a little unstuckness in time. So
just stay away from Slaughterhouse-Five.
I will do that. Jimmy, today is Friday. What dropped on Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World?
Part one of a two-part look at the Zodiac Killer. He was a serial murderer in California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. He sort of did most of his crimes kind of in a bunch, but then after that he carried on an extensive correspondence with newspapers in which he made threats, and it was really mysterious. He confessed to weird beliefs, like he was collecting slaves for his afterlife, and he included cryptograms, some of which were not solved for like 40, 50 years. And so today we looked at the early phase of his career, and next time we're going to look at the latter phase of his career.
All right. Check it out at mysterious.fm or on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. Cryptogram is a code or?
Yeah, he had coded messages that he would send and challenge people to crack them.
And they did, but they have been cracked now? Or should I just watch the?
Almost all of them have been cracked. The ones that haven't, the one in particular that hadn't, is super short, and so the shorter it is, the harder it is to crack.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, you have less material to work on there. All right, well, let's start in Texas. John's in Texas watching on YouTube. Thank you for starting us off this hour, John. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Mr. Akin. My question today is, how would you respond to Dr. James Madden's objections to near-death experiences that contain veridical information? So his first objection is that maybe they're just lost memories that the person forgot they had during the experience that came up. And then his second objection is that, well, maybe they just overheard staff, like the case with the shoe. Maybe she just heard someone mention the shoe outside the window, and then she had a near-death experience seeing the shoe and thought it was real.
Okay, so in regard to the first one, near-death experiences are when someone either clinically dies or almost clinically dies, like, their heart stops and then the doctors get it restarted, but they continue to have conscious experiences during the interval when they're clinically dead. Like they may have an out-of-body experience, they may see relatives or angels that greet them into the afterlife, they may go through a tunnel, they may encounter a barrier and be told you're going back, or they're given a choice, do you want to go back? And sometimes they include veridical information, which is information that the person did not know, and in fact that nobody may have known before the near-death experience, and it's too specific to be attributed to random chance, and it turns out to be true. And that would be evidence that they acquired this information paranormally during the near-death experience. So in regard to the first objection, there are many cases of near-death experiences where paranormal information is obtained that cannot be attributed to the person's memory. For example, sometimes the patient's eyes, like if they're going in for heart surgery or something, the patient's eyes will be taped closed, and they're taped closed before they enter the surgical theater. But then they're able to identify things from within the surgical theater that they could never have guessed. Like, for example, there's a famous case where a guy's heart was stopped, and he saw the doctor doing something that looked like flapping his arms, kind of like a chicken or something. And it turned out that this was a habit that this one surgeon had, who he did not know this surgeon. But the surgeon had a habit of gesturing with his elbows towards tools and stuff, towards surgical implements, to tell the nurses what he wanted them to hand him. And this was his way of not risking getting his hands to be unsanitized. And so, the guy's eyes are shut, they're taped shut. There's no way he would know about this particular doctor's odd habit in the surgical theater. There are other cases where the person learns information, like my sister died, because he met her in the afterlife. That's not based on a memory either. He didn't know his sister was dead before going into the surgical theater. When it comes to the idea, so that's the response I'd make to the first objection. There are many NDEs that don't fit that pattern. With regard to the second objection, it could be stuff that is overheard while the person is unconscious. I'd make at least two responses. The first one is that you need evidence to support that hypothesis. Like you mentioned Maria's shoe, where a woman named Maria had gone into cardiac arrest, and while she was in cardiac arrest, she had an out-of-body experience and saw that there was a shoe on a ledge outside a window on an upper floor of the hospital. And in order to propose that she overheard this while she was in cardiac arrest or close to cardiac arrest, somebody in the surgical theater would have to know about that shoe. And you can't just assert that that's the case. You need evidence that someone knew about the shoe and that they happened to mention it while Maria was in the surgical theater. And we have no evidence that that's the case. There's also an additional barrier in that Maria did not speak English. Maria was a Spanish speaker, and so she'd not only have to have someone in the surgical theater who knew about the shoe and who talked about the shoe, but who talked about the shoe in Spanish. And that just completely does not fit the evidence we have in that case. There are also other near-death experiences containing veridical information which clearly were not talked about in the surgical theater. For example, there's another famous case where a brand new surgeon was left to deal with a cardiac arrest patient. It was very early in his career. He was supposed to be guided through this experience by other more seasoned doctors, and they didn't show up. They left him to deal with this cardiac patient himself, and he resentfully thought in his mind while he was having to do this, why did you abandon me in this way? Why are you leaving me to deal with this? He then had to stay with the guy for a while, and he got hungry, and they had brought the patient's food, but the patient wasn't going to eat it, so he ate it himself. Well, when the patient recovered, he not only knew the doctor had eaten his lunch, he also knew that the doctor had thought, why did you abandon me and leave me to deal with this myself? And obviously the doctor had not said that out loud. He had only said it to himself in his mind, and yet the patient knew about it. So when you study the full range of experiences, there are many situations where you can't simply attribute what the person learned, and that would also include things like my sister is dead, where you cannot attribute it to being mentioned in the surgical theater.
I think that brings us to the break. So, John, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for the call. I hope the answer was helpful to you. We'll be right back with more Ask Me Anything with Jimmy Akin on Catholic Answers Live.
Miss a show? Make sure to catch up by downloading the podcast, available online at Catholic.com.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Real Estate for Life. Real Estate for Life connects homebuyers and sellers to real estate agents while supporting pro-life organizations. On the web at realestateforlife.org.
Underwriting for Catholic Answers Live is provided by Magnificat. Published monthly, Magnificat features texts of daily Mass, prayers, articles, meditations, art commentaries, and more, in step with the liturgical rhythm of the Church, on the web at magnificat.com.
As the largest religious media network in the world, EWTN has an important role in educating others about our Catholic faith and spreading the good news of salvation. We invite you to explore our numerous pages of historical faith documents, prayers, teachings, and other current issues in Catholicism today. Visit EWTN.com and click Catholicism. EWTN is the global Catholic network.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. It's Ask Me Anything this hour with Jimmy Akin. You are welcome to call 888-318-7884. Let's go to Andrew in Tennessee, watching on YouTube. Andrew, glad you're here. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy.
Hello, Jimmy. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. What can I do for you today?
That's great. I'm gonna. Yeah, well, I'll get to my question. So I'm gonna start this off by. So basically, my name is Andrew because my parents decided to name me Andrew when I was born. But realistically, they could have named me anything else. So my question is, Lord willing, if I get to heaven, is Andrew the name God is going to call me by? Basically, is that going to be my name in heaven, or is God going to give me a new name? Because in some sense, I feel that wouldn't be off the table, because we know that Jesus gave Simon, son of Jonah, a new name. He gave him the name Peter.
Yeah, well, it's not off the table, because in Revelation 2:17, one of the promises that is given to those who overcome in this life, meaning those who get to heaven, is that God will give them a new name that nobody knows except that person. Now, obviously, God also knows the name because he's the one who gives it. But we do have this verse that speaks of God giving each of us a new name that, like, only we and God know. So that could be symbolic of something, but it also could be literal, in which case God could have a special private name for you. Other people might still call you Andrew, and God might still call you Andrew, but God also might call you by your new private name. So those are possibilities. I also have a question, though, about the extent to which we will actually need or use names in heaven, because names are linguistic markers that we use in this life where we have to use language in order to express ourselves. We, in addition to language, though, also have what is sometimes called the language of thought, or mentalese. And we're so trained in this life to verbalize our thoughts that it can be a little difficult to think in pure mentalese without using language, but it is possible. I've had experiences like where I'm driving and I have to react to something really quickly, and I have the experience of thinking without using words, and I deduce, things very quickly about what do I need to do here, even though I'm not using language to do that. So mentalese is a real phenomenon. And in the afterlife, whether in the intermediate state or in the resurrection, I think there's a significant likelihood that we will not be bound to using language the way we are now. We'll still have the ability to use it, just like Jesus did after his resurrection, but we may not need it. We may be able to think and communicate in pure mentalese, at which point we may not need names in any literal sense, though we, of course, could still have them and use them.
Okay, Andrew?
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. This may not be entirely relevant, but I've heard it said in some prophecies that the confusion that was given to us from the Tower of Babel will be undone.
Well, that could be, but to me, the logical way to interpret that would be either God gives us all the miraculous gift of speaking in tongues or interpretation of tongues, or it's a reference to we're going to be using mental ease. And so if we have a common mental language, we won't need the physical languages that divide us.
Andrew, thank you. Thank you very much for the call and for the questions. I'm going to go now to Kentucky. Phyllis is in Kentucky watching on YouTube. Phyllis, are you there with us?
Yes.
Well, hello, Phyllis. How old are you?
I'm 9 years old.
Well, thank you for calling. You have a question for Mr. Aiken?
How many pipes do you have?
How many pipes do I have? Well, I haven't actually counted, but I've been a pipe smoker since I was quite young, and I've collected them for many years. And so it's certainly in the dozens, I would guess, I don't know, somewhere between 1 and 200 probably.
Whoa. Did you expect it to be that many, Phyllis? Well, Phyllis sounds very... that is awesome.
Wow.
I'm sorry I talked over you, Phyllis. I didn't know you were still going to talk. I'll tell you what, if you will, if there's an adult that can give us an address, I'd like to send you a book we have. It's called The Truth Is Out There. It's a graphic novel. And if the adult there would like us to send it, all they have to do is give us an address. Phyllis, thank you very much for the call. I'm going to Michael in Columbia, South Carolina now. Michael, thank you for waiting. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
So my question is, about 5 months ago, my brother-in-law passed away unexpectedly.
Oh.
Thank you. It did result, for me, spiritually, in a significant reversion back to Catholicism. So in that sense, I guess I'm thankful. But I certainly hope and pray daily that he's in heaven or purgatory. But in so much as I don't know that, assuming I go to heaven, which I plan to, what would God do to relieve any pain felt if my loved one is not there?
Well, the book of Revelation at the end tells us that there's not going to be any pain or sorrow or anything like that in heaven. And so we know God's going to do something. The question is, what is it going to be? And the church doesn't have a teaching on that, so all we can really do is speculate. One of the common opinions is that by exposure to the great goodness of God, it will drive out all sorrow. And so we will see God as he is, spiritually speaking, and that infinite goodness that he has will be something that effectively drives out any experience of sorrow for us. Now you can then try to relate that to what if someone we loved on earth is not in heaven? Will we still love them? I would say yes, we will. But how do we then not get sad at the fact that they're not in heaven with us? I would say, well, we will be less happy than if they were in heaven with us, because that would be something else to celebrate. But a common opinion has, in the history of theology, has been that we will recognize that they freely chose to be where they are, and that God is respecting their free will by letting them have that choice, and that this is ultimately, a matter of justice, and God was willing to forgive them. They just chose not to be forgiven. And so, as a result of a combination of those factors, we'll be enabled not to be sorrowful over it, because we'll see things from an ultimate perspective where the fact they're not with us makes sense from that perspective. Having said that, there are other options, and we don't ultimately have a final answer to this question, but that's some of the speculation.
Michael, thank you for the call and for the question. Jimmy?
And want to encourage folks to pray for Michael and his brother and for everyone in similar situations.
Indeed, and I know people will, Michael. Thank you for the call. I'm going to go up to Newfoundland, Canada now, where Colin is listening on our website, Catholic.com. Colin, welcome. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So my question is, could the origin of some textual variants within the New Testament be due to multiple editions made by the original authors? For example, John could write one copy of his gospel, then while copying out a second say, ooh, the story of the woman caught in adultery would go good right there, and then add that event in and send off both copies, starting two manuscript traditions. Do you know if there's any scholarship around that kind of possibility?
This is actually something that has been discussed in recent scholarship, not that I'm aware in regard to the story of the woman caught in adultery. But in general, there has been a recognition that when they launched books, they made multiple copies of them. John he wouldn't have just written one copy of his gospel and sent it to somebody. He would have, after he did the initial draft, he would have taken it to a scriptorium and had scribes copy out several copies that he would then send to multiple places. You can really see that clearly, for example, with the book of Revelation, which is sent to 7 different churches. And so obviously there were at least 8 copies of it in the first edition, one for each of the 7 churches, and at least one that John would have kept himself. So that we would expect that pattern to occur with books of the Bible in general. There wouldn't have just been one copy. Even with letters to individual churches like St. Paul's, he would have kept a copy for his own records. That was standard practice. And then there would be at least a second copy that he would send to the church in question. And because of this, you have to ask the question, could there be manuscript differences that the scribes introduced? It's also possible, as you mentioned, that there could, and I'm hesitant to go this direction because we don't have manuscript evidence for it, but there could be multiple editions produced by the same author. The best case for that kind of scenario would be the Book of Acts, because there's an Eastern and a Western version of the Book of Acts, and they do contain notable differences that some have proposed go back to Luke himself. So this is, like I said, I don't know about people trying to explain the story of the woman caught in adultery this way, but this is something that is actively under discussion in scholarship today.
What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Do you know any particular scholars that would, I don't know off the top of your head, if you know any particular scholars that are looking into that?
Oh, I've read some, but I don't have their names at the top of my head, I'm afraid.
A fascinating question, though, Colin. Thank you very much for the call and for the question. I'm going to keep going because we've got full lines. Joshua is in Mississippi watching on YouTube. Joshua, welcome. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy.
Hey, so where I live, just south of where I live in Wiggins, Mississippi, there's a huge Catholic community, and there's also a big Catholic community towards Hattiesburg. I was wondering if you would ever go on a speaking tour again, and if you would, could you come down to southern Mississippi?
Well, I don't really do speaking tours, but I do go and speak. And so as long as I can drive somewhere, and I can drive to Mississippi, if you or one or more of the communities down there would like to have me come down and speak, I'm quite open to that. You can email Jennifer at Catholic.com. She's our seminar coordinator, and she can get you started on the process. I'd be more than happy to come down to Mississippi and speak to folks.
Okay, it'd probably be a good while because I'm not, in the parish community. I go when I can, but I'm not yet in the community.
Okay.
So I will eventually ask the priest about that.
Okay, that sounds fine. I'm not planning on going anywhere, so whenever folks in Mississippi are ready for me to come speak, I should be ready too.
Joshua, thank you. Thank you for the call and for the question. Jimmy Akin is our guest. It's Ask Me Anything this hour. And I'll tell you what, I'll look at the phone lines and see. I think we got a couple lines open. No, one line open. One line open. So a good time to call 888-318-7884, 888-318-7884. Anyone is welcome to call you. If you are not Catholic, if you're new to all this, you're welcome to call. Ask your question. We love having these conversations, and we'd love to have the conversation with you. 888-318-7884. As I've been telling you all week, Joe Heschmeyer's book, The Early Church Was the Catholic Church, is on sale right now over at shop.catholic.com. It's just $10, and it's free shipping anywhere in the United States. If you live in the U.S., you can get it for just $10, no shipping costs. Shop.catholic.com is the place to go. The early church was the Catholic Church, the Catholic witness of the fathers in Christianity's first 2 centuries. All right, we got to take a very quick break. You can hear that in the music. Jimmy Akin is our guest. 2 lines open now. We'll be right back to take more calls for Jimmy on Catholic Answers Live. What was the church like in its infancy? In a word, Catholic. And Joe Heschmeyer has the receipts. In his best-selling book, The Early Church Was the Catholic Church, he gives you the details from the historical records of the first 2 centuries of Christianity. Right now, get a copy for just $10, plus free shipping if you live in the continental United States. Get more information and order The Early Church Was the Catholic Church at theearlychurchwascatholic.com.
Why We're Catholic is the one book you can hand to anyone to invite them into or back to the Catholic faith. With more than 400,000 copies sold, Trent Horn's book has had a #1 ranking on Amazon.com for 5 years running. Now available in softcover, bulk cases, ebook, and on Audible. Find out what the excitement is all about. Order your copies of Why We're Catholic at shop.catholic.com or visit whywearecatholic.com.
As we read the Gospels, every Christian faces the question again and again, what does Jesus mean? Getting the answer right is critical to both growth in holiness and fruitful evangelization. Want to know Jesus better so you can introduce him to your friends? Then it's time to get serious about understanding his words. Why not join Catholic Answers for our 10th annual Apologetics Conference? Learn from me the parables, sermons, and conversations of Jesus Christ. September 26th through 29th, right here in sunny San Diego. Learn from our guests, Dr. Scott Hahn and Kimberly Hahn, Dr. Ray Garendi, Father Sebastian Walsh, Billy Junker, Father Paul Check, and, of course, all of your favorite Catholic Answers apologists. It'll be 4 days of fun, faith, fellowship, and a live radio show. Seats are still available, but going fast. Visit CatholicAnswersConference.com or call 1-888-291-8000 today. Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Cy Kellett, your host. Jimmy Akin is our guest. Your calls are welcome. It's an Ask Me Anything this hour, 888-318-7884. And there's pretty much a couple ways to go to the top of the line if you want to get your question in. First one is be 9 years old and name Priscilla, and then we'll bump you right up to the top of the line. The other one is just come into the studio. And Drago, from right here in San Diego, but not originally from San Diego, is in studio. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. You got to get right on the mic if you're going to talk.
I'm in the mic, Cy. And listen, last time I came here, I brought bagels.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Yes, but this time I brought some keys, because that dovetails into my question. The keys to the kingdom of heaven, baby. We're Catholics, right?
I didn't know we were going to get a whole performance. I'm so happy, Drago. All right, go ahead. What's your question then? I assume Peter is going to come up, but
well, yeah, we got to. You know, we have the Pope, we have Peter. So Matthew 16, the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and we talk about Isaiah 22 and what Revelation, key of David. And some people told me, well, Drago, come on, that's the keys in Matthew 16, but what is a singular tense key of David? It can't be the same thing. And I'm like, it is, but I don't know. I need a better answer, so I'm hoping to get your advice, Jimmy.
Yeah, so there is a difference in the way the keys, which is in the plural number, not actually tense. Tenses apply to verbs. But it's in the plural number in Matthew 16, but then in Revelation 3, it's in the singular number, the key of David. And both of these passages hark back to Isaiah 22, where we're told that the chief steward of the house of David had a key, singular number, on his shoulder that was a badge of office. So it is true that there's a difference in the number in these two passages, but it's also clear to biblical scholars that both passages are drawn on Isaiah 22, because that's the only place in the Hebrew scriptures where a key is used to symbolize anything. There is like one other reference to using a key to open a door, a physical door, after one of the judges has assassinated a foreign king, and his servants have to use a key to open the door to find the king's body. But that clearly is not in the intellectual world behind that Matthew 16 and Revelation 3 are drawn on. In both cases, we have a key that's connected very clearly with authority. So in Revelation 3, Jesus has the key of David, which is clearly representing his Davidic authority. And in Matthew 16, Jesus says, I'll give to you, Peter, the keys of the kingdom. And the reference to the kingdom clearly, again, invokes rule and authority. And so consequently, even though there is a difference in the number, both of these are drawn on Isaiah 22, and that fact is not controversial among biblical scholars. If you want to go further and say, well, why is it different? Is there some lesson we can learn from it being plural in Matthew and singular in Revelation? Well, maybe, but that gets more speculative. If I were to speculate on the matter, the first thing that strikes me is immediately after Jesus says he'll give Peter the keys, he says, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. And so I would say, if I'm speculating along these lines, that giving him the keys to the kingdom includes the power to bind with one key and the power to loose with another key. So that could be why it's plural in this context, whereas it's singular in other contexts.
Drago, that was pretty good, right?
Can I ask a follow-up clarification?
Please do. Yep.
Okay, so the binding and loosing for sure, right? That there's the authority there. Now, is there some probability that the keys in Matthew 16, Jesus is using that expression in a disconnected way from Isaiah 22, or is it like, no, like he is for sure doing a callback to Isaiah 22? Even if we accept, yes, this is the authority, he is establishing the papacy, but the specific use of word keys, is there a possibility he's just introducing it as a new thing, or is he for sure doing a callback to Isaiah 22?
Well, anything's possible, but that doesn't mean anything's probable. The very high probability is he is consciously thinking of Isaiah 22 here.
Yeah.
Drago, thank you.
Thank you.
And every time you bring something, you brought bagels, you brought keys. I just want to say I really enjoyed the bagels. That's, you do what you want next time you come. But. All right, thanks. Thanks, Drago. We're going to West Palm Beach, Florida. Tommaso in West Palm Beach, Florida. We are glad you are here, Tommaso. Thank you for coming. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy.
Hello, Jimmy. How's it going?
Going okay.
I got kind of a complex question. So I'm a young Catholic, just started my first year of college, and I'm taking an intro to philosophy class. So we went through like the argument of evil, and we went through specifically like Mackey and Hicks. So one thing, like Mackey makes the point that God is not omnipotent because he could have made us with free will, and we always make the right choice. And then Hicks responds by saying that it's like a logical impossibility for God to do that. But when Hicks said that, I kind of had the thought, like, if God can't give us free will, but also let us make the right choice every time. I feel like that's kind of contradictory to what happens in heaven. So I kind of want to, like, can you reconcile that for me? Like, how does God allow the evil on earth while also making it make sense for no sin in heaven?
Okay, so we got a bunch of issues here, and I'll try to deal with them expeditiously. One question that is related to this is, will we have free will in heaven? And the church doesn't have a teaching on this, so it's a matter of speculation. And some folks might want to say, well, no, we won't. God's going to take away our free will. If we choose good, then God will take away our free will, and we'll just be good from that point on. No freedom involved. Or if we choose bad, God will take away our freedom, and we'll just be bad from there on with no free will involved. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that we're going to still have free will. It's just that our freedom is going to work differently than it does in this life. In this life, we have the freedom to both choose among many different goods and among many different evils and among many things that just appear to be neutral. And so we have a wide range of things that we can choose among. Some of them good, some of them neutral, some of them evil. In heaven, we're going to be confirmed in good, so the ability to choose evil things will go away for us. We'll still be able to choose among a bunch of good things and maybe even neutral things, just no bad things. So we'll have a restricted range of freedom there. And the converse would be true for people who are in hell. At least one class of good things will no longer be possible objects of free choices for them. And that's things that are supernaturally good, that involve the supernatural love of God and neighbor. They won't be choosing that anymore. But they could still choose among other things. Now, so I think we will have freedom in the next life, just like in this one. It's just that the range of things we can choose will be different. Now, you might then say, well, why would there be a difference between this life and the next life? Well, God could have created us in this life with the freedom to only choose among good things and not choose evil. He could have done that. But so I would disagree with Hicks that that's not a possibility. What I would say, though, is God wanted to give us a free choice of between good and evil, so that we can freely choose good without it being built into our free will. Because there's something extra about choosing love, which is to say choosing good, if you choose it freely. It's like in the Stepford Wives, these men build robots of wives who are going to love them, but the robots don't have any choice. And so there's something cheap about the love that the Stepford Wives have for their husbands, because they didn't freely choose to either love or not love their husbands. And in the same way, God wants us to be able to freely commit to love, which is God is love, so we're freely committing to him, or not freely commit to him. There's a certain added quality to the dignity of the choice if it allows the person to either choose God and love or not choose God and love. But then once we've made that choice, once we're committed to the path, well, then we're committed. And so in the next life, we'll be committed to whichever we've chosen, and we'll still have free will, but it'll be over the range of things that we have chosen. If we choose good, we'll have the ability to choose among good things. If we have committed to evil, we'll have the ability to choose among evil things.
Now, Tommaso, does that help you?
Yeah, that makes sense. I have like a follow-up question.
Quick.
But
so does everybody. What's yours?
I kind of mimicked that to my teacher, kind of like what you said, and she just said, because I think she's an atheist, she said basically, like, oh, but if God was all powerful, he'd be able to make us so she basically just said it like back to me, like why would God not make it that way, if that makes sense? Like there was kind of a disconnect.
Well,
Does that make
disconnects
sense?
happen, and if she's just repeating to you stuff that's already been said, you can just repeat back to her stuff that's already been said. Like I just said, there is a difference between being able to freely choose good or evil. There's an added value to that we have in real life, but that the Stepford wives don't have.
Tommaso, I'm going to leave it there because it's break time. Thank you for the call and for the question, and lots more calls for Jimmy coming up right after this on Catholic Answers Live.
There's only one Catholic Answers Live.
The Catechism defines evangelization as the proclamation of Christ and his gospel by word and the testimony of life. But what does that look like in real life? It looks like St. Paul street evangelists out in the public square sharing the good news. We're a Catholic nonprofit that starts conversations by handing out free sacramentals. Then we employ our method of listen, befriend, proclaim, and invite. Catholic Answers is supported in part by St. Paul Street Evangelization. Visit streetevangelization.com to learn more.
At EWTN Radio, your family. And because you're a part of our family, we value your opinions on what you hear on EWTN. You can call our listener comment line 24/7 at 205-795-5773. We value your comments, your questions, and any suggestions you may have to make EWTN Radio even better. 205-795-5773. And thank you for listening to EWTN Radio.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Jimmy Akin is our guest, and lots of folks on the phone with questions. It's an Ask Me Anything this hour. Thomas is in Connecticut watching on YouTube. Thomas, welcome. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you so very much. For taking my call. So, I had a near-death experience a few weeks ago.
Oh,
and,
wow.
I have a horrible proclivity for a sort of spiritual bipolarity, where I'm either far too presumptuous that I'm definitely going to heaven, or that I am certainly bound for hell. And I was surprised to experience what I assume must have been purgatory, because it certainly was not the beatific vision or a fiery pit. But I was wondering if the Church has an authoritative teaching on what the experience of souls in purgatory is like, or if I was just confused as to my experience, or if it even was a real near-death experience, or if it was just my brain, concocting something.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask a question, which is, did you experience cardiac arrest during this event?
I did, yes.
Okay. So there's a good likelihood that it was a genuine near-death experience in that case. Cardiac arrest is not a prerequisite for near-death experiences, but if you have cardiac arrest and then you have an experience during that state, it is very likely to be a near-death experience. Although there are situations, can you describe anything about this experience to me?
So I sort of foggy at the beginning, but I remember seeing like an intense, not even a white light, just like pure light, uncolored. And I heard a female voice that I assume was Our Lady, and then not audibly but perceived mentally a voice that I believe to have been my mother, who died about a month before this, praying the Jesus prayer with me, which I have very deep devotion to. I love the Jesus prayer. And then I saw the words of the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, over and over again in my vision. But besides that, I don't remember a whole lot else. And then I woke up in the hospital.
Okay. And how, I'm gathering the experience wasn't very long, or at least what you remember of it wasn't. And I'm gathering, what's that?
It felt very long.
It did. Okay. And how would you characterize the feeling that you had during this experience, or feelings? It could be more than one.
It was oddly comforting for the fact that I was aware that I I knew that I wasn't, you know, I don't know. It was strangely calm.
Okay.
I figured I would have been frightened, but I wasn't.
Okay, well, so the first thing I'd say to answer your question directly is the church does not have a teaching on exactly what purgatory feels like for those who are experiencing it. Historically, the church has used the image of fire, and in the past, there were significant debates about was this a physical fire, and how could a physical fire affect an immaterial soul and stuff like that. But those debates have largely gone by the wayside. And so if you look in the Catechism or in Pope Benedict XVI's Spes Salvi, where he talks about purgatory, it much more conveys the impression in a recent magisterial teaching that the fire is an image, but it's not meant to be taken literally. So there's no definitive teaching on this. The field's really wide open for speculation in terms of what might it be like to experience purgatory. In terms of your experience, I would say that if you found it oddly comforting, I don't know that I'd classify it as purgatory. You weren't yet in the full joy of heaven, but then there's a transitional period that is even reflected in Scripture where, Jesus in his parable of Lazarus and the rich man, he talks about how when Lazarus died, the angels came and took him to the bosom of Abraham. And that implies a transitional period following death before you get to your final destination. And so I would say your experience, you were in a preliminary stage of this transitional period, and so you can't expect it to be the full glory of heaven at this stage. The fact that you found it oddly comforting could mean that you're on your way to heaven with no purgatory, or that you were on your way to purgatory, which might be intense, but you'll still get to heaven, or you're on your way to heaven with a very mild purgatory. It also could be because of it also could be that there are additional aspects of the experience that you weren't able to bring back into your memory. Because if experience is happening when you're out of your body and then you get back in your body, you may not be able to retain everything about the experience. In fact, that's commonly reported with near-death experiences. People will say things like, oh, I knew all this stuff, but I just can't remember it. Or at least I know there's more to this experience, I just can't remember it. And so it could be that there are additional aspects to your experience that you weren't able to bring back and remember. But it would seem to me like the experience was fundamentally positive, whether it involved purgatory or not.
Okay, thank you. Slight follow-up question. If I'm correct, and that other voice that I was perceiving was my mother, would it then be permissible by church teaching to venerate her as a saint, like personally? Not obviously not.
You can venerate any person that you think is in heaven as a saint. You don't need church approval for that. Church approval is needed if you want to do it under church auspices, like include the name in the litany of the saints when you're saying it in church as an official church act. But in terms of private devotion, if you think your mom's in heaven, by all means, think she's in heaven, think she's a saint. That's totally fine.
Thomas, I'm going to leave it there. We're going to keep moving. Thank you very much for that.
Actually, before we keep moving, so Thomas had a intense experience recently, and he also lost his mom recently. So I want to encourage folks to pray for Tom and for his mother.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you very much. Tyler is in Iowa watching on YouTube. Tyler, welcome. Go ahead with your question for Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy. So I was baptized in a non-denominational church, but thanks mostly to you and Trent Horn, I've come to believe in the truth of Catholicism over the last year, and
Awesome.
I'm now in OCIA classes. So my question is, since I've been baptized, but I've obviously not been able to go to confession, I would assume that I'm living in a state of mortal sin in the meantime. So my question would be, I guess, how would God view me in terms of salvation? And is there anything I should be doing in the meantime just to, I guess, be right with God, if that makes sense?
Sure. So the church would not assume that you're in a state of mortal sin. You may not have had access to the sacrament of confession, but for those who don't have access to the sacrament of confession, which includes, many of our Protestant friends, if they make what's known as an act of perfect contrition, which is essentially where you love God as your highest priority, he's more important than anything else. Now, if you may have very strong feelings for other things like your wife or your children or things like that. But if push came to shove and you had to choose, am I going to stick with God or something else? If you would choose God, then you have what's known as supernatural love or charity, and that of itself puts you in a state of grace. So you have God's grace, you are in a state of salvation, as long as you have that charity, that supernatural love. And so sometimes people will make a specific act to elicit that love, and that's called making an act of perfect contrition. But other times there may not be a specific act where they do it. They may just have God as their highest priority. And that excludes mortal sin, because if God's your highest priority, you prefer God to whatever sin you committed. And so you would already be in a state of grace, whether you consciously made an act of perfect contrition or not. So the church would not presume that you're in a state of mortal sin. Now, what do you do if you're concerned that you might be? Well, one option is make an act of perfect contrition, consciously, deliberately. Think about God, the fact he's infinitely good, the fact he's infinitely loving, the fact he ought to be your highest priority. And just affirm, yeah, he is my highest priority. If I had to choose between him and something else, I'd pick him. And that will put you into a state of grace. Another possibility is, since you've already been baptized, you actually could receive the sacrament of confession. In fact, part of the process for a baptized person becoming Catholic, you would need to go to confession before you get confirmed. And so at some point before you're received into the church, you would need to go to confession, and you could always talk to a priest and say, actually, would it be possible for me to accelerate that part? Even though I'm not going to be received for a while, it would help me spiritually if I could go to confession. Is that a possibility? And it might be, depending on the priest you talk to and how you explain it to him, and what your own personal spiritual needs are.
Awesome. That sounds great.
All right, Tyler, I'll tell you what, I'm going to move quick to try to get one more question in before we have to go. Luke is in Seoul, South Korea. We love talking to Luke on Saturday mornings in Seoul. But Luke, I'm sorry, we won't get to chat. You're just going to have to ask your question real quick if we want to get an answer from Jimmy. We're having trouble hearing you, Luke. Is the volume? Can you try it again, Luke? Let's see if we can hear you. No, we have a bad connection. Let's
just read Luke's question. So Luke's question is, were all of the 95 theses that Martin Luther wrote wrong? And the answer is no, they weren't. These were 95 debate propositions, things that could be debated. And when the Pope responded to Luther's write-ins, he did so in a bull called Exsurge Domine, and it didn't include condemnations of all the 95 theses. So quite a number of the 95 theses are not problematic. And so Luther wasn't wrong about everything in there. He was wrong about some things that, he proposed for debate, but not everything.
Luke, I hope that was helpful to you. I'm so sorry we couldn't hear you, but I hope you will enjoy your Saturday morning breakfast there in Seoul, South Korea, and maybe we'll talk to you another week coming up before too long. Jimmy Akin has been our guest. Check out Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World at mysterious.fm, especially this week if you're interested in the Zodiac Killer, with a two-part a two-episode look into the Zodiac Killer starts today. Also, there's 350 or more other episodes there at Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. You can also find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. As you can tell, because the music is playing, we are at the end. Jimmy, thank you very much. Enjoyed the hour with you.
My pleasure, Cy Kellett.
And that will do it for us. We're glad you spent the time with us, but we gotta go. We'll do it again next time, God willing, right here on Catholic Answers Live. And if you are in the area in the next couple weeks, September 27th, we start our local conference, our annual conference. And if you're local, come by. Check it out at CatholicAnswersConference.com.